So I wanted, before we get started, to let everyone know that I have a new podcast out, and it's called Meditations. If you like the Meditations segment of this current podcast, you'll like the Meditations podcast. It's nothing but 20 minutes of meditative sounds. And now, on with the podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
My wife wants me to keep the weight off. Fucking bitch.
Good morning. It's Thursday, Moral Thursday, July the 3rd, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the headlines, patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, and moral politics. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now the headlines for Thursday, July the 3rd. House Republicans are investigating New York Governor Kathy Hochul for abuse of federal taxpayer funds. Ricky Gervais says, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to introduce bill requiring proof of citizenship to vote, new census that only counts citizens. FBI breaks Chinese spy ring targeting military. CBS settlement to pay millions to President Trump in Kamala 60-minute interview lawsuit. After hours of backroom talks and a trip to the White House, House Republicans say they're ready to deliver Trump's big, beautiful bill with major tax cuts and spending reductions, aiming to pass it by the 4th of July. And those are the headlines for Thursday, July the 3rd. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now on the political corner, Charlie Kirk.
So right now there is a viral clip of Zoran Mamdani giving an interview while he's doing something that quite honestly is very disgusting, yet calculated. He's doing it for a reason, but also just kinds of show what he is pointing towards. I have many thoughts on this. And whether it's orchestrated or not, first we just need to make a comment that we in the West value cleanliness. We have utensils. We teach our kids to use utensils. They say, well, what about burgers and pizza? Yeah, that food is designed that way. Rice, since we have utensils, you don't eat it because we're not in the third world with your hands. This is Zoran Mamdani eating disgustingly, talking about the struggle of Palestine. It's so contrived. Play cut 251.
So the third holy grail of taboos in American politics, you have socialism, you have Islam, and then you have Palestine. And you are really going for the trifecta. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Tell me, why is Palestine a part of your politics?
When you grow up as someone especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding of the Palestinian struggle.
So he's not even eating with his hands correctly. People that have grown up in the third world, they say he's not even doing it right. He's just faking it. He's doing this to signal his third world cred. So think about it. To get credibility in the New York mayor's race, you have to pretend to be in the third world. Now understand that in the modern world, authenticity is considered to be the most important thing ever. But should it be? Now, authenticity, if you're pointing towards something good and virtuous, is beautiful. You're authentically trying to be the best version of yourself, to be honest. If you're pointing towards a moral and transcendent ideal. But Zoran Mamdani is not authentically trying to point New York or aim towards a better city. He's trying to bring New York into the gutter. And authenticity without virtue is just narcissism in disguise. Let me say that again. Authenticity without virtue is just narcissism in disguise. People say, well, he's just being himself. He's so authentic. Okay, if a third worlder comes and starts defecating on the side of the street in Times Square, are we going to say, boy, he's being his true and authentic self. He's really being wonderful. No, we have standards in the West. In fact, when I'm raising my daughter and I try to teach her table manners, I don't say, just be your authentic self, honey. Keep on interrupting us. Use your hands when you eat macaroni and cheese. No, in fact, my wife and I, Erica, we go through methodical lessons of here's a spoon, here's how to use it, because we want to elevate the human being above our natural, broken, fleshly state. 500 million people in India defecate on the side of the street. That's bad. We don't do that in the West because we try to value cleanliness, order, and yes, actually things that aren't filled with filth. Now, Zoran Mamdani, he's faking this entire thing, obviously. He's trying to be authentically third world when he himself is not even authentically third world. So the whole thing is just so bizarre. And even more telling, like, why would you fake being in the third world? Because that gets you brownie points because people say, oh, he is an embodiment of the struggle against Western civilization. And people say, I like Mamdani because he's authentic. But authentic to what? And what is he aiming towards? He's aiming towards a devolution. It's bad either way. By the way, if he eats with his rice with his hands, whether he means it or not, he's either authentically gross or he's being a fake, disgusting person. And in some of the comments of a TikTok video I made, people said, but Charlie, who are you to judge other cultures? No. That's the point. We in Western culture believe that our way of life is the best. We're better than Mohammedanism. We don't do female genital mutilation. Well, I guess the trans people do, but we don't do female genital mutilation. We in the West don't have child marriages. We don't believe in honor killings. We don't believe in polygamy. We believe in American exceptionalism. We believe our culture is better. You see, in the modern world, happiness is the goal, feelings are the guide, judgment is the ultimate sin, and God is the ultimate guess. And let me say that again. Judgment is the ultimate sin. You're not allowed to judge others. Guess what? I'm going to judge you if you eat rice with your hands. That's bad. That's wrong. Assimilation is a necessity, not a suggestion. And guess what? We don't believe in resentment-based confiscation of other people's stuff. The third world loves that. We say no. We say, no, you're not going to all of a sudden have city-run grocery stores like they do in Cuba or Venezuela. No, you're not going to send social workers where police should be going. And no, you're not going to go take other people's stuff, because here in the first world, in America's wealthiest city and largest city, we know how to create wealth. In the third world, they haven't figured it out. Go to South Africa. Go to Southeast Asia. Go to most of sub-Saharan Africa. Go to most of the rest of the world. They haven't quite figured it out. We know how to create wealth. In fact, that is the question that perplexes most of humanity. Anyone can take. Anyone can destroy. Few can build. Few can take risks. Few can build skyscrapers. Few can build trillion-dollar companies. It takes no skill or talent for Zohran Mamdani to do what he's doing. And the embodiment of him eating rice with his hands is the perfect physical manifestation of him trying to throw New York City in the third world gutter.
And that was Charlie Kirk in the Political Corner. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the Patriotic Short.
On October 31st, 1966, James Williams, a bosun's mate first class at the time, served as a boat captain aboard PBR-105, accompanied by another patrol boat when they came under sudden attack from two enemy sampans. Without hesitation, he ordered return fire, swiftly eliminating the crew of one sampan and forcing the other to retreat into a nearby river inlet. As bosun's mate Williams pursued the fleeing vessel, the patrol encountered intense small arms fire from well-concealed enemy positions along the riverbank. Maneuvering through the ambush, they soon faced a vastly superior enemy force, 2 enemy junks and 8 sampans, supported by heavy automatic weapons fire from the shore. In the fierce engagement that followed, Williams, with complete disregard for his own safety, repeatedly exposed himself to enemy fire to direct counterfire and rally his men. Realizing the overwhelming strength of the enemy, he skillfully redeployed his patrol to await the arrival of armed helicopters. During this maneuver, he discovered an even larger enemy naval force. Without waiting for reinforcements, Williams deployed extraordinary initiative, leading his patrol directly into the fight. Under his command, the patrol damaged or destroyed 50 enemy sampans and 7 junks. As armed helicopters arrived, Williams coordinated a final assault on the remaining enemy forces. Though darkness was setting in and his boats would become even more vulnerable, he ordered searchlights turned on to better illuminate the enemy positions. Pressing the attack close to the shore, the patrol engaged the remaining enemy forces despite dwindling ammunition, successfully routing the enemy. Through his exceptional leadership, tactical skill, and fearless determination in the 3-hour battle, bosun's mate Williams and his patrol accounted for the destruction or loss of 65 enemy boats and inflicted heavy casualties on enemy forces. And for this, bosun's mate James Williams was awarded the Medal of Honor.
And that was the Patriotic Short. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, a little motivation. And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Daily Stoic.
A selfish reason to be good. The person who does wrong to themselves. The unjust person is unjust to themselves, making themselves evil. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 9.4.
There. See? And now, His Excellency, Bishop Robert Barron.
There is no guru, teacher, founder, nobody who's as strange and relentless as Jesus. And therefore, the religion attached to Jesus is the strangest of them all. Jesus says, whoever loves father or mother more than me, son or daughter more than me, is not worthy of me. The Buddha would not say this. Muhammad wouldn't say this. Moses wouldn't say this. Confucius wouldn't say this. Aristotle wouldn't say it. Plato wouldn't say it. I don't know anybody in the philosophical or religious tradition who would say such a strange thing. But Jesus says it. Your love for me personally has to go beyond the most intense loves of your life. Now, you see the point I'm making, everybody, and why I speak of the strangeness of Christianity. He wouldn't say this unless he himself in person were the very highest good.
And that was His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron. And now, the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, the symptoms of today's cultural disease are conformity with nothing to conform to, timidity expressed in a self-shrinking concern with trivia, a kind of obsequious anxiety to please the unknown standards of some non-existent authority, and a pall of fear without object, unquote. And that was Ayn Rand from the chapter, The Establishing of an Establishment, from Philosophy, Who Needs It? Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, psychopathy. Why do narcissists triangulate? Narcissists have fragile self-esteem and need a constant source of attention and admiration to cope, otherwise known as their narcissistic supply. Engaging people in triangulation fills this supply by increasing the narcissist's feelings of superiority. Bringing in a third party to agree with them and make the other person look wrong increases their sense of rightness. And that was psychopathy. Back in a minute. Thank you. End of Maria, start of Stu.
Powell is not doing anything on rates, probably until September. This is a problem for the markets, and I understand that, Maria.
Mark Tepper, so far, this market is trading on expectations of growth, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the companies with the best growth trajectories out there, it's still in the themes that we've been talking about for the last few years. AI, automation, robotics, health and wellness, longevity. Those are all the themes you want to be in.
And I would add to that defense and defense technology as we watch an increase in defense spending, President Trump's plans for the Golden Dome, lots of new money and ideas in tech innovation as it relates to defense and, of course, the border. Great panel, great conversation, everybody. Thank you. Joel Schulman, Alfredo Ortiz, Jerry Storch, Stephanie Pomboy, Mark Tepper, Cheryl Cassoni. Have a great 4th of July, everybody. We send you our best regards for the long weekend, and I'll see you next week. Varney and Company picks it up. Ashley Webster in for Stu today. Ashley,
hey, good morning, Maria. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Indeed, I'm Ashley Webster in for Stu today. Right now, the House is debating President Trump's big, beautiful bill, and once Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries ever finishes his floor remarks, we'll see. House Speaker Mike Johnson is then expected to speak. We're told his remarks will be brief, thankfully. Then the vote will get underway. 30 minutes ago, we received, by the way, the latest unemployment data, and with the release of the June jobs report, 147,000 jobs added in the month of June, with the unemployment rate unexpectedly falling a hair to 4.1%. So coming up, we'll be speaking with the Labor Secretary to break down that report. I have a feeling she's going to be happy with it. Turning to the markets, as you can see, the futures showing us up across the board, but very modestly so. But, you know, if we get the mega bill through, maybe things will change. But the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ up modestly. It is a shortened trading day, we should point out. The stock market closing at 1 p.m. Eastern, the bond market 2 p.m. Eastern, and will remain closed for the 4th of July holiday. So it's interesting to see what investors will do this morning. Maybe not too much. 10-year Treasury yield essentially flat at 4.33%. The 2-year Treasury under 4% at 3.88%. Again, essentially flat. The price of oil down again, down to 67.27 a barrel. Gold, what is gold doing these days? Also moving lower, down $26 at $3,333 per troy ounce. What is that? Threes are wild. Bitcoin rebounding, approaching the 110,000 mark, 109,300, essentially flat. Okay. That taken care of. On the show today, Governor Ron DeSantis says Florida may need an entry tax to handle the influx of new residents if socialist Zoran Mamdani wins New York's mayoral race. They're all going to run south, he says. We're going to ask Miami Mayor Francis Suarez whether Florida's cities are prepared to handle a potential wave of new arrivals. Meantime, in California, the state's gas tax just went up. What's new? Steve Hilton went to the pump to hear from drivers firsthand. I'm sure they're thrilled. He'll be on the show later on. And a record-breaking travel weekend is ahead. An estimated 72 million Americans, there or thereabouts, are expected to hit the road this Independence Day. Good news is, with gas prices projected to drop to their lowest level, July 4th level, in many years. All that, of course, and more coming up with an all-star lineup ahead. Oh, we got so much to talk about as well. So much for a slow holiday week. Anything but. It is Thursday, July 3rd, 2025.
And that was Varney and Company, and Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from a book that's called Good Inside. What's the opposite of understanding? For this argument's sake, it's convincing. Convincing is the attempt to prove a singular reality, to prove that only one thing is true. Convincing is an attempt to be right, and as a result make the other person wrong. It rests on the assumption that there's only one correct viewpoint. And then my question is this supposed to be convincing? Further, convincing has one goal in mind, being right. And here's the unfortunate consequence of being right. The other person feels unseen and unheard, at which point most people become infuriated and combative, because it feels as if the other person does not accept your realness or worth. Feeling unseen and unheard makes connection impossible. Understanding two things are true and convincing one thing is true are diametrically opposed ways of approaching other people, so a powerful first step in any interaction is to notice which mode you're in. When you're in one thing is true mode, you're judgmental of and reactive to someone else's experience because it feels like an assault on your own truth. As a result, you will seek to prove your own point of view, which in turn makes the other person defensive because they need to uphold the realness of their experience. In one thing is true mode, exchanges escalate quickly. Each person thinks they're arguing about the content of the conversation when in fact they're trying to defend that they are a real, worthy person with a real, truthful experience. And again, is this convincing? Back in a minute. Thank you. This is a response from MSNBC, a person on MSNBC, about the Supreme Court's ruling about lower courts and the scope of their authority.
I just want to note the Democratic appointees' strong dissents in this case. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson calls the court's decision an existential threat to the rule of law. Justice Sotomayor's dissent says no right is safe in the new legal regime the court creates. She calls the court complicit in a grave attack on our system of law. The reality is the Supreme Court's Republican justices took away lower courts' single powerful tool, the most powerful tool for reining in the Trump administration and holding them accountable to the law.
So they're gaslighting here, and they're gaslighting by changing the subject. The whole thing here in this ruling is about the scope of the authority of courts, particularly federal courts. It is not about the rule of law. Now, and they're changing the subject here, and they're gaslighting because they're doing it in a very subtle, clever and subtle way. Because technically we're all talking about the law, right? This is a constitutional issue. What is the Constitution? A set of laws. So it sounds, if you're not listening carefully, as though they're saying that they're talking on the same subject, but they're really not. The other thing that was really interesting about what she said was a confession. There's a little confession in there at the end when she said they're taking away the lower court's ability to hold the Trump administration in check. Paraphrasing, of course. She didn't say that they're taking away the judiciary's ability to hold the executive branch in check. Only Donald Trump. So apparently they are expecting that the judiciary is never going to want to put in check a Democrat. Kamala Harris, for instance. So again, we're being gaslit here by MSNBC. This is a classic gaslight. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Back in a minute. Thank you. So this is kind of a breaking news thing. On the news today, they say that this governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom, is going to sign a bill to give tax breaks to Hollywood, to producers and production companies. Again, this is what I'm talking about, and I'm talking primarily now to Democrats. You got to find better leaders. This is the guy that wants to talk about making the rich pay for their fair share. Well, who's richer in the state of California than production companies? Disney, DreamWorks, Tom Cruise, people like that. They're filthy rich. Sound studios or film studios, they got them all over Southern California, and they're going to get tax breaks while you and I end up paying more, especially we've got our, effective yesterday, Gas taxes went up 6 cents per gallon. Okay, the poor end up paying more in taxes. The rich end up getting tax breaks. And even though people like Gavin Newsom are always talking trash about the rich, we're going to make them pay their fair share. No, you're not. You don't have the guts to do it. You know who's really rich? Law firms. But there's no way the Democrat Party, anybody in the Democrat Party, is going to make big-ass law firms pay their fair share in taxes. They're just not going to do it. Now, if it was me, if I'm Gavin Newsom and I'm a Democrat and I'm going to have these people pay their fair share, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come out and have a press conference and I'm going to announce every production company, everybody in the entertainment industry in California is going to pay their fair share. We're going to double your taxes, whether you like it or not. Now, if you think that you're going to go somewhere else out of state or you're going to go to Canada, good luck with that, because as soon as you leave, we will seize your studios, we will seize your property under eminent domain, and we will use it to house the homeless. Second thing that we're going to do is everything you try to sell in California that you're producing somewhere else, say in Canada, will get 100% tax, 500% tax, whatever. So that, let's say you want to go to the movies, $100 per ticket. You want a CD or a DVD, $100 per copy. We are going to get our fair share, whether you like it or not. So you can stay in California and pay your fair share, or you can flee and pay your fair share. But either way, you're going to pay your fair share. That's what I'd say, and that's what the Democrats should say. That's what Gavin Newsom should say, but doesn't. Gavin Newsom is ripping you off. If you're a rank-and-file Democrat, somebody that votes a straight Democrat ticket, you may as well vote for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump can do what Gavin Newsom is doing. Okay? So, again, he's horrible. He's absolutely horrible. You want to be loyal to your party. Okay, I get that. But damn it, there's got to be better Democrats in the Democrat Party than Gavin Newsom. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, what does the phrase, if you're explaining you're losing, mean in debates? This was said by Ronald Reagan, speaking of political campaigns. From the perspective of your audience, if you have to explain yourself, you come off looking desperate to convince. As a consequence, you lose the high ground. From a more philosophical perspective, when you have a clear conscience and strong conviction towards the positions you take, your values, truth, and direction, you don't need the opinions or consent of others. As a consequence, you don't need to explain yourself. However, if you yourself are not convinced of the validity and truth of your position, or you can't fully justify your choices, then you continue to expel words in an attempt to create the illusion of certainty. Back in a minute. Thank you. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about just flashed on the idea, the political dynamic of the One Big Beautiful Bill. We have a situation in which things have kind of turned on the Democrats, where it is the Republicans that have a plan, they have an idea, they have a solution to problems, and it is the Democrats that are the ones now saying no, that won't get into the game. All they want to do is say no. This is no good. It's just a way of Donald Trump making his rich buddies even richer, that kind of thing. And it's stupid. And it's surprising because usually the left is pretty good, pretty adept at politics and things political because they love politics. They love power. And so right now what they're busy doing is dealing themselves out of the game, so to speak. The Republicans usually do that with facts, like when President Biden wanted to forgive student loans. The Republicans said, no, No. Stupid. Really stupid. Because then you set yourself up in a position again where you're out of the game. You're going up against somebody that says, we got American people, we've got something for you. We'll pay off your student loans for you. Who doesn't like that? That's a great idea. So you got that versus the people that say, what? No. That's stupid. No is unpopular. Always has been, is today, and always will be. And at the end of the day, politics is a popularity contest. So the Republicans should have done, and what the Democrats should do this time, deal yourself some cards. Right? So in this particular case with the big, beautiful bill, Democrats should be saying, hey, great idea. I like this. This is all great ideas, but we should tweak it. We should adjust it. And you come up with your alternative to the one big, beautiful bill, the Democrat big, beautiful bill, or whatever you want to call it. Now you're in the game. Now it goes back to being a popularity contest. Whose bill is better, the Democrats or the Republicans? But the way it stands now, the Democrats are going to lose simply because they have dealt themselves out of the game. So the big, beautiful bill, it will pass in one form or another, and the Democrats will end up with nothing. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, moral politics.
Part 2. Moral Conceptual Systems. Chapter 3. Experiential Morality. To understand the ways in which moral worldviews affect political worldviews, we must look first at our system of moral concepts in some detail. Because I will argue that political perspectives are derived from systems of moral concepts, we must consider what those concepts typically consist of, and why we have the moral concepts we have. An important conclusion of research in cognitive studies is that moral thinking is imaginative, and that it depends fundamentally on metaphorical understanding. See references A6, Johnson, 1993. Before we proceed with our discussion of metaphors for morality, we should point out the obvious, that morality is not all metaphorical, and that non-metaphorical aspects of morality are what the system of metaphors for morality is based on. Non-metaphorical morality is about the experience of well-being. The most fundamental form of morality concerns promoting the experiential well-being of others and the avoidance and prevention of experiential harm to others or the disruption of the well-being of others. Here is part of what is meant by well-being. Other things being equal, you are better off if you are healthy rather than sick, rich rather than poor, strong rather than weak, free rather than imprisoned, cared for rather than uncared for, happy rather than sad, whole rather than lacking, clean rather than filthy, beautiful rather than ugly. If you are functioning in the light rather than the dark, if you can stand upright so that you don't fall down, and if you live in a community with close social ties, rather than in a hostile or isolated one. These are among our basic experiential forms of well-being. Their opposites are forms of harm or lack of well-being, poverty, illness, sadness, weakness, imprisonment, and so on. Immoral action is action that causes harm or lack of well-being, that is, action that deprives someone of one or more of these, of health, wealth, happiness, strength, freedom, safety, beauty, and so on. In the case of young children, it is the job of parents to do their best to guarantee their well-being. On the whole, young children are better off if they are obedient rather than disobedient to their parents, who, in the normal case, have their best interests at heart, know how to keep them from being harmed, and exercise legitimate authority. These are, of course, norms, and the qualification, other things being equal, is necessary, since one can think of special cases where these may not be true. A wealthy child may not get the necessary attention of its parents. Someone beautiful may be the target of envy. One ordinarily needs to be in the dark in order to sleep. Excessive freedom can sometimes be harmful. Sadness and pain may be necessary to appreciate happiness. Social ties that are too close can become oppressive, and parents may be abusive or neglectful or ignorant. But on the whole, this account of experiential well-being holds. It is these conditions that form the grounding of our system of moral metaphors. Since it is better to be rich than to be poor, morality is conceptualized in terms of wealth. Since it is better to be strong than to be weak, we expect to see morality conceptualized as strength. Because it is better to be healthy than sick, it is no surprise to see morality conceptualized in terms of health and attendant concepts like cleanliness and purity. Since it is better to be cared for than uncared for, it seems natural to find morality conceptualized as nurturance. And because in normal cases, children tend to be better off if they obey rather than disobey their parents, we expect to see morality conceptualized as obedience. What we learn from this is that metaphorical morality is grounded in non-metaphorical morality, that is, in forms of well-being, and that the system of metaphors for morality as a whole is thus far from arbitrary. Because the same forms of well-being are widespread around the world, we expect many of the same metaphors for morality to show up in culture after culture. And they do. Where we find purification rituals, we find a manifestation of morality as purity. Because of the widespread fear of the dark, we find a widespread conception of evil as dark and good as light. Because it is better to walk upright than to fall down, we find the widespread metaphor of morality as uprightness. In short, because our notion of what constitutes well-being is widely shared, our pool of metaphors for morality is also widely shared. Indeed, the commonality of shared metaphors for morality both within and across societies raises a deep question. What are the differences in moral systems, and what is the source of those differences? As we shall see, different conceptions of the family constitute one such source of difference, at least within American culture.
And that was Part 2, Chapter 3 of Moral Politics. And I wanted to say on this one, what he says is different. That's the key word there, different. Not right, not wrong, different. And that's incorrect. They're not just different. Again, especially when you're talking in the context of value. And that's the way he framed the whole first part of this chapter was value. We value certain things above others. Therefore, certain things are right and others are wrong. Not just different. And it's important because this is about the way you think. And as you think, you will speak. As you speak, you will act. And as you act, you will vote. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative of the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that determinism is a choice.